Welcome to this Blender tutorial. This is designed for students who come along to Club3D, which is a lunchtime club for students at Manor CE Academy in York, but hopefully it can be useful for anybody. It's aimed for complete beginners at Blender, which is a 3D modeling piece of software which is completely free. It's really powerful, but the interface is pretty intimidating if you've not used it before. So hopefully in this tutorial it will talk through some of the most useful things that you can do to get you started. So probably before you go any further, it's worth downloading the keyboard shortcuts and tips file. I'll put a link to the file in the description thing on YouTube. I'll probably, if I can work out how to, put one of those overlay things. There should be a link that says click here now or something, and you can download this. It's just different stuff that you can press on the keyboard that does stuff. Everything in this video, it should say on the screen what I'm pressing. I'll try and say what I'm pressing, but then everything's written down here. Well, most of the shortcuts are written down here for you to use a little bit later. So in this video we're going to make a little snowman just because it's quite nice and fun and simple. Alright, so we're going to start from just the simple cube that you get whenever you start Blender. Remember, if you've not used it before, you push the mouse wheel in between the two mouse buttons in and move the mouse around to look around, or you hold down Control and do the same to be able to zoom in and out, or hold down Shift and pushing the mouse wheel to be able to pan left, right and up and down. Alright, so let's try and turn this block into a snowman, and the techniques we use to do that are called box modeling. It's where you start with a box and then you just add bits, stretch bits, rotate bits until you've got a block that looks a little bit like your model. And to help us, we're going to use a modifier, which is you have to click on the little spanner thing over here. If you can't see it, just scroll the mouse wheel when it's over this part of the screen. And we want to add a modifier which is a subdivision surface modifier, and it just smooths over your object. So now we're going to change into edit mode. We're in object mode at the moment. Object mode is great for making new things, for copying and pasting stuff, for rotating things. If you want to change the shape of it, we want to go into edit mode, and we do that by pressing tab on the keyboard. So you can see our cube, and you can see the sphere inside, the sort of rough looking sphere inside. And on our modifier, it's split just once, and we're going to change it so that it's split twice. It still looks pretty sharp around the edges, it's not smooth. So press tab again, back to object mode, and we're going to change the shading so it's smooth, so it looks nice and smooth around the edge. Okay, so tab to go back into edit mode, and we're going to try and change this to look more like a snowman. So let's press Control and R for a loop cut, and Control and R lets you click to put one of these purple lines in, and it's called a loop cut because it's like cutting your object in half. So I click once, and then you can click where you want the line to go, and you can see how it's kind of changing the subdivision surface modifier. I'm going to put one down at the bottom over here. So what this has done, we've now got lots more points in 3D space. So the points, each individual point is called a vertex, and we've got 12 of them so far. The lines between them are called edges, and we've got 20 edges at the moment. And if I scroll across, I've got 10 faces. Now the faces are the kind of the bits of paper between the edges. I want to change into face select mode so I can select the surface at the top. So I'm going to press Control and Tab, which brings up this little menu, and I'm going to select face mode. Now I can right click, in Blender it's right click to select, so I want this one at the top. I'm going to press E to extrude. I'm just going to move it up a little bit and click again. Then I'm going to scale it, I'm going to squidge it. If you can hear any noises in the background, that's just my 8-month-old son. He's sat next to me watching this. So S for scale, and move your mouse towards the middle to make it a bit smaller, and click. E to extrude, and we're going to get the neck to come up a little bit, and then E to extrude, and then S to make it a bit bigger, and then E to extrude, and then click. Okay, so this is the body of our snowman. That was nice and simple. Now we're going to make some eyes. So in Blender, right click is select, or left click lets you move this kind of safety raft thing, which is called the 3D cursor. You can click anywhere in 3D space and it tries to put that life raft there. So I'm going to try and click just on the front of the face. Now, a really useful thing in Blender, Control Alt and Q, sorry about Daniel making noises. Just have to ignore that. Control Alt and Q lets you see a quad view. That's what Q stands for. All right, Daniel. So quad view, you can look from the top of your object. We're looking down at his head. You can look at the front, you can look at the side, and you can look from the camera. And the camera is great. If I right click to select the camera, maybe I have to go into object mode first. You can press Shift and F, and then you can move with W, A, S, and D like you could in a game, and kind of move it around, and then click. If you want to get out of quad view, just press Control Alt and Q with your mouse over any of the ones, and it'll go into that view. Okay, we're using this just to be able to get the 3D cursor just on the front where an eye should be. So it needs to be where an eye should be, towards the front. Let's go into edit mode and Shift and A this time to add a little cube. Okay, that's far too big for an eye. Notice that even though we said to add a cube, because we've got the subdivision surface modifier, that thing that smooths stuff, it's turned it into a sphere rather than a cube, which is what we want. We want round eyes. Let's press S to scale it, make it sort of eye size, a little blob. There we go. Push the mouse wheel in so we can see what's going on. It's a bit too big maybe, so S a little bit closer. And once you've got an eye in the right sort of place, press Shift and D, and then you can move it. Shift and D duplicates something. Now I want it to be perfectly lined up with the first one. So can you see there's red lines, green lines, and there would be a blue line. These are the axes, and it tells you at the bottom of the window which axis is which. If I want to move it along the red axis, I think that's X. If I hold down X, it will lock it to that X-axis, or I could have pressed Y or Z. So I just pressed X to lock it across, and click. Okay, so we've got two eyes. Notice they're not smooth, so I'm going to go out of edit mode into object mode by pressing Tab, press smooth again, and then back in by pressing Tab. Shift D again to duplicate, and I want some little buttons this time. But the buttons I think are going to be a bit smaller, so I've pressed S and then Shift D, get one over here, Shift D, one over here. And then I want a nose, a carrot nose. Oh dear, look, my buttons aren't connected, which is a bit of a worry. So this shows us a useful way of selecting stuff. I'm on face mode at the moment. Let's change to vertex mode, which lets you just select an individual point. You could hold down Shift and try and select all of the points for this cube and then grab them with G. But you can see if you don't select them all, it goes a bit crazy. A really useful keyboard shortcut, and this isn't actually on the shortcut list, is Control L, which selects all of the vertices that are attached to the current object. So right click, select one of those, Control L to select all of that, Shift right click to select something else, Control L, and I want to move them towards the body, so that's G to move them, and then along the Y axis I think to move them in like that, and that'll do. You can spend a bit more time being more particular about it. I would like a carrot for a nose, so I'll get one of the cubes by right clicking to select a point, Control L to get all of them, Shift D to duplicate it, and let's move it up the Z axis until where we want the carrot. Is that connected to the face? Yeah, that'll do. Okay, Control Tab to go into face mode so that I can just right click on the edge pointing outwards. And this time, instead of extruding it, I'm just going to grab it. That's G. And I'm going to pull it out on the Y axis. So I've got the carrot. Doesn't look much like a carrot at the moment. I'm going to put a loop cut in, Control and R. Hover the mouse over the edges you want to chop in half. Click there. So I want it to be nice and big, that end. Control Tab into face mode. Right click on the end, press S to scale it. I'm going to make a slightly bendy carrot. G to move it down, and then put another loop cut in, like so. Make it a bit smaller. There we go. It's a nice little carrot. Looks a bit spooky actually, it's probably a bit too big, but it'll do. We're going to add a little hat as well. So let's just click at the top of the head and add Shift A cube. The cube's far too big, so S to scale it down, move the mouse and then click. It's not smooth, so I'm going to press Tab and smooth it, press Tab again to go back into edit mode. Okay, this time for the hat, let's put a loop cut near the top, so click, well, near the bottom actually might work better. Go into face mode, select the top bit, make it much smaller, maybe move it to the side, extrude it, make that extrusion much smaller with S, sorry, extrude was E, extrude it again with E to add a little bubble, scale the bubble up a little bit, extrude it up, and then, gosh, they're doing that very well. If I excuse you, Daniel, GZ to move it up. There we go. It's not the greatest bubble, but you can have some fun and play around with it. So that's the basic shape. Now we just want to change the colour of it. So this is it in object mode. At the moment it's all one colour. It would be nice if the snowman itself was white, and if the eyes and buttons were black, the carrot nose was carroty coloured, and we've got a red hat. So let's see what we can do. Back into edit mode. First of all, let's select everything. Now A selects everything or nothing. It's really useful. It sort of toggles selecting everything. So we've got everything selected. Click on the little world picture for materials, and we've got one material at the moment. We'll change the name of it to be called Snow, press enter. And it's kind of a grey, mushy snow coloured. So we change the diffuse colour to make it a little bit lighter. So you can see how everything's got lighter now. Now let's make a new material. So click the plus up here and the plus just down where I've clicked, and call this one coal. And let's select what we want to be that colour. So just right click on any of the eyes, Control L, Shift right click, Control L, Shift right click, oh no, got the wrong one, so Shift right click again. This could be a bit tricky to select these. So for this I'm going to turn X-ray mode on. X-ray mode lets you kind of see through stuff. So that's X-ray mode off, that's X-ray mode on. That just lets you select something behind something else. So Shift right click, Control L, Shift right click, Control L. So I've got everything now selected that I want to be black. I've got the coal material. I'm going to change the colour of it by clicking, make it black. Sorry, my computer's really old and slow, but it does the job. And click assign, that's the bit that actually makes it that colour. Okay, so let's do the same now for the carroty nose. Right click, Control L. Let's make a carrot material, so click the plus, change the name. You don't have to change the name, but it's a really good idea. Oops, carrot's got two R's. Then choose a carroty colour and assign it. And there we go. So all we've got now is the Christmas hat to do. So right click, Control L. So that's got the whole of the Christmas hat. So I want everything apart from the bobble at the top. So I'll change it all red to begin with. So I'll add a new material, plus change it to be red. Let's call it hat and assign it. So that's what we've got so far. Looks a bit spooky, but you get the idea. Just want a white bobble on top, so back into edit mode. And for this we're going to use box select. So A to select nothing, B for box select, and that lets you draw a box around all the bits that you want. Now be careful with this, if you don't have X-ray vision mode on, that's this one, and you do it, so box select now, it will only select the bits facing you, which isn't usually what you want. So it looks like I've got everything, but I haven't got the bits at the back, can you see? So let's try again. A to select nothing, turn X-ray on, excuse you. B for box select, There we go. I think I've got one too many. So you can shift and right click to unselect as well. Shift, right click, I think that's got it. And I'll just put it the same material as snow. So click it up here and assign it. Alright, there we have our own little snowman. So in the same way, this technique is known as box modelling. You can pretty much make anything. Start with a cube, extrude it, stretch it, rotate it, and play around with it and see what you want. I'm just going to try and put some little pupils on the eyes. So I'm going to select the faces and press W to subdivide that face. Cut it maybe 3 times, just so that the middle one I can have a slightly different colour. There we go, I'll do the same. So it's going to look really scary actually. Subdivide, cut it twice, and the middle one, oops, is going to be white. So tab to go into object mode. Kind of looks like we've got a cross between a snowman and a penguin wearing safety goggles, but you can have a lot of fun, play around with it, see what you can do.